Hello everyone and welcome to Kat's Tiny Kitchen. No video of me today to start out with an intro is because I've been busy in the garage and I'm really kind of grungy looking. So what we're going to do today for Mike, because he had quite a few teeth pulled and can't really chew anything right now, we're going to make 3 different kinds of pudding. Something soft, cool, and easy for him to swallow. So what we're going to do first is vanilla pudding, and I'm going to show you the ingredients and we'll get this show on the road. So our first ingredient is going to be the milk. We have 2 1/4 cups of milk. Then we have 1/3 cup of sugar. We have 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, a 1/4 teaspoon or 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Get you in there. I don't know if you're focused or not. Then we have 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla. We have 2 egg yolks, one of them busted. And we have a tablespoon of butter. And that's our ingredients for the vanilla pudding. I'm also going to try some chocolate pudding and some butterscotch pudding, and we'll see that here in a little bit after we finish the vanilla. So with that being said, let's get this show on the road and cooking. So to start the recipe, I'm starting it over a medium heat. I need to add my milk, my sugar, my cornstarch, my salt, and my egg yolks. Get a spatula here to clean this bad boy out. There we go. Need to make sure I get as much of that as possible. So then, over medium heat, we need to whisk this all together. We want to keep whisking it until it comes to a light bubbling. It says this could take 7 to 8 minutes, but with my stovetop it could take longer. So we'll just keep whisking and you can watch. It is starting to get bubbly, so we're going to continue stirring. It needs to get a little more bubbly than it is right now, and as you can tell, well, maybe not from the video, but as you might be able to tell, it is starting to thicken. So what I'm going to do is once it gets bubbling a little bit more, oh yeah, it's bubbling pretty good. So I want to cook this for another couple minutes, maybe less, because it's getting pretty thick. And then I'll remove it from the heat, and I'll add my final 2 ingredients, and we'll move you over there when we get to that point. Okay, it's bubbling really good. So now I'm going to remove it from the heat, and we'll be back in just a second to show you the final 2 ingredients. Okay, I've got it off the heat. So my last 2 ingredients are the 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla and my 1 tablespoon of butter. And I'm going to whisk that in. Get the butter and the vanilla incorporated, get the butter melted. It will melt because this is pretty doggone hot. And then once that's done, I will put it in containers and let it cool, and then throw it in the refrigerator for Mike to eat later. So we're going to put you on pause while we wait for the butter to melt, and I'll come back and show you what containers I'm going to use. See you in a minute. So what I've got here are 4-ounce containers that I got from the grocery store that I'm going to use. That'll be half a cup of each, and a good portion size for eating. So just move my bowl over here for you, and I'll start scooping it up. And what I'll do then is I'll let these set out until they get lukewarm, and then I'll cover them and I'll put them in the refrigerator to chill. Looks like I'm only going to get 3 containers out of this one, which is fine. I'm going to scrape these out, and we'll shut you off and move on to the next one. Okay, we're moving on to our next pudding, which is going to be butterscotch. So we're going to go over our ingredients here before we get started. For this recipe, I'm going to use half and half instead of milk, so I have 3 cups of half and half. And we have a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. We have 1.5 cups of brown sugar, packed. I have 4 egg yolks, and yes, I broke one. One of these days I will not break one, and it'll be pretty looking. We have 2 tablespoons of butter. We have a half teaspoon of salt, and I forgot one ingredient. That would be vanilla, and vanilla will be 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I will get that out here in a minute and get it going for you. And I'm using vanilla extract. This recipe called for vanilla extracts. A lot of the recipes will call for, there you go, there's your vanilla. For pure vanilla, which I do not have, I think it's more expensive, I don't know. This is an expensive ingredient to begin with. So that's our ingredient, and we will start getting the mixtures together here in just a minute. To get the butterscotch pudding going, we're going to add all of our dry ingredients into the saucepan. So that would be our 1.5 cups of brown sugar, which is pretty hard. Our 1/4 cup of cornstarch, and our salt. And we're gonna get this busted up and stirred together here. It needs to be stirred together so it's evenly mixed. It's a little lumpy, but I think it'll be okay once we get the other mixture in there. That looks pretty good right now. So then, in another bowl, we're going to whisk our wet ingredients together. Let me move this out of the way. So I got my handy dandy mixing bowl here. So I'm going to add my milk. Three cups of milk. And then I'm going to put in my 4 egg yolks. And then what we're going to do with this is whisk these two together. Get them well incorporated, get the eggs broken up and get them well incorporated. Sorry, that wasn't milk, that was half and half. And if I may have gotten the wrong measurement on the salt earlier. It's actually a half teaspoon of salt. So now that we've got that mixed together, we're going to bring our sugar back over. Sugar and flour, the dry ingredients. I'm going to turn my heat on. Medium heat. And we're going to slowly incorporate the eggs in the half and half. That's looking good. And because I'm using 4 egg yolks, I'm probably going to end up having to put this one through a sieve. If you notice any of your puddings have a lumps in them, after you get done cooking them, you more than definitely can run them through a wire sieve, and that will get rid of the lumps, and then you can put it in your containers and get it ready. So I got my milk and my eggs in. It's the recipe that I got tells me not to boil it, but you want it to get it hot and get it thick enough before you add the last 2 ingredients, which would be the vanilla and the butter. And I'm hoping that I can find a recipe or make a recipe that doesn't require eggs, because they are doggone expensive right now. So we're gonna let this go, and I'll just give you some music time while we're waiting for this to take care of itself. Okay, so this is getting to a good thick consistency. So I'm going to move it off the heat, and I'm going to add the last 2 ingredients, and then we will skim it, and I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so it's hot enough, so we're going to add our butter, our 2 tablespoons of butter. Stir that in. And our teaspoon, teaspoon of vanilla. Add that in. Now in this recipe, you can use dark brown sugar. Like I said, I use light brown sugar this time. It's the first time making this, so I may use dark brown the next time, make it a little more richer color. And it looks like my butter is all melted in now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bowl and a metal sieve right here. And I can see that it's got a lot of lumps in it. So I'm going to run it through the sieve to get rid of the lumps. And a rubber scraper, I don't want to miss any of this stuff. Okay, so we've got all of our stuff in the bowl here, and then I'm just gonna, with a continuous motion, just push it through the sieve, so to speak, so that I can get all of the pudding without any lumps. It looks like I may have a more pudding with this batch than I did the last batch. We will see once we get it into containers. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with vanilla. We'll fill the containers and let them sit until they get lukewarm. And once they get lukewarm, I'm going to put the caps on them. And I've been trying to get them full enough so that when I cap them, I don't have to put a piece of plastic wrap over them to make the like a skin on the top of the pudding. So here we go. This looks pretty good. And it is warm. Okay, so there's that one. And I will clean the edges up. It gets a little messy doing it this way, but I will clean the edges off of it before I put the lids on them. And I did get a little bit more. Looks like I'm going to get 6 containers out of this. And rather than have you hang around and watch, I am going to go ahead and end this one, and then we can move on after I get this all done to chocolate. We'll see you in a minute. We are on our third and final recipe of the evening, chocolate pudding. This one doesn't contain eggs, but I'm pretty sure I might end up with some lumps. So I'll probably strain this too, but I may not show that to you. One education lesson in a video is enough on that one. So we're going to cover our ingredients right now, and we're going to start out with 4 cups of milk, then we've got 1 cup of granulated sugar, half a cup of baking cocoa powder, quarter of a cup of cornstarch, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, half a teaspoon of salt, And last but not least, I have 2 tablespoons of butter here. So with that being said, let me get you moved over to the pot and we'll start cooking this. So with this recipe, we're going to start out with our dry ingredients again. We're going to add the cup of sugar, half a cup of cocoa powder, and 1/4 cup of cornstarch in here. Come out of there. And then we're going to whisk this together. Just get it mixed up a little bit. And now I'm going to turn my heat on medium. And I'm going to gradually add in the milk. Cocoa powder gets funky because it's a very dry ingredient, so you want to make sure that you get that all broken down and mixed up well. And I think I'm going to try and adapt this recipe with the other 2 puddings and see if I can't make them without the eggs, like I said when I was doing the butterscotch. And this one we're going to keep cooking it until it comes to a boil. Cook it for a couple of minutes. And then remove it from the heat and add our 2 final ingredients. We'll go out later. I'm just hoping this doesn't turn out grainy. I noticed the butterscotch was a little bit grainy texture to me. I'm hoping that I cooked it long enough, but it tasted really good. Both the vanilla and the butterscotch tasted good, and I know this one will. It's loaded with cocoa and sugar. Cocoa, sugar, and whole milk. I used whole milk this time. You don't want to go like lower fat content milks, only because you need that fat from the whole milk or half and half or heavy cream for this to be able to set properly. And as you can see, I'm still breaking up a couple pieces of cocoa, little specks of cocoa there, which that will end up cooking also once we get this going. None of these recipes are mine. I went out on Google and Googled everything. So if you're looking for a good recipe, that's one way to find them. Go out on Google or go to YouTube University. That's where I spend most of my time. So we're gonna just keep stirring this over the heat till it comes to a boil. And then after that, we're gonna cook it for another 2 minutes, couple minutes, so it continues thickening. So here's where I'm gonna put some music in for you. Now that it's starting to boil, I'm going to keep kind of stirring it. I don't want it to burn. So we'll just kind of keep stirring it. It's supposed to boil a little bit more, so like the other recipes, I'm just going to cook it for a couple of minutes. And then we'll move it off the heat and we'll add our other ingredients. And we are almost there. It's getting nice and thick. Really liking that. Looks nice and chocolatey too. kind of silky. I'm sure the butter and the vanilla will help that also. It'll start to bubble here in a minute. It's getting a good consistency though, that is what I really wanted to see. Thickening up nicely. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but there we go, it's starting to bubble. Which is what we need it to do. Oh yeah, it's getting nice and thick now. So I think I can remove it from the heat and add the last two ingredients. So if you'll wait just a minute, I'll get everything moved and I will bring you back. Okay, so for the last two ingredients, we're going to add our 2 tablespoons of butter. Get in there. And our 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And I'll stir this until the butter is melted. And this does not need to be put through a sieve. It is not getting the lumps like the puddings with the egg in them did. Come on, butter melt. Yep, almost there. The butter's almost melted. Yep. Keeps coming up, but I think it's melted now. So now all we have left to do is get this in containers and let it cool, and we'll put it in the fridge for a few hours. Again, I'm using my little containers here, plastic containers. And I'm probably going to let this cool a little bit because this is pretty hot and I don't think I'll be able to handle those containers. So I'll be back and we'll dish it up. Okay, I was going to wait, but this is sort of getting a film on top of it, so I really don't want to wait. So I'm going to go ahead and work on getting some containers ready here. And I'm going to do like I did with the other ones. I'm going to fill them up enough that I can put the lid on and I don't have to put plastic wrap over it. And that should work. So here we go. I am not left-handed. And I don't know if I told you this, these are half-cup containers. That's just enough portion for Mike. And yes, I do get messy. All of my friends will tell you I'm messy. This looks yummy. So rather than have you hang around for the rest of the plating up of this, I'm gonna thank you for joining me today. I'm blessed to have you along for the ride. All that's left is to finish getting this put up and a picture. So until the next time, you all have a wonderful evening.